COVID-19 pandemic and current public health guidelines for social distancing, I've determined that it is not prudent for the members of the Economic Development Commission or staff to convene in person for this morning's meeting. Therefore, the members of the EDC are attending this meeting by video conference. Those same conditions require barring access to the public for in-person attendance. In light of those limitations, the public is invited to attend and listen to the meeting through Zoom platform or by phone as indicated on the meeting agenda. To comply with the Open Meetings Act requirements for virtual meetings this morning, this meeting is being recorded. Right, Denise? Are we on?
It shows.
Yes, we are recording.
All right. First order of business is to take attendance. Pam, you want to call the?
Yes, Mike Elliott, Jay Levine, Mina Hall,
I'm here.
Erwin Steinberg,
Here.
George Goebel,
I'm
Roger
here.
Goebel. Okay, and I'm here.
So 4 of us makes a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the minutes of the prior meeting. And I believe didn't circulate it to everybody. Is there any correction or addition to be made, or can we get a motion to approve?
I just wanted to mention that I was at the meeting, or I don't think I made the cut. This is Jenny.
Oh, sorry, Jenny. I prepared the minutes.
That's okay. I saw that Anne made it, but I did not make the meeting. I was there last week.
Oh, duly noted.
I'm here today too, Bill Jacob too, so.
All right, good deal.
Anybody else on the line?
Mike Sarletto.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Hi, good morning.
Rita O'Connor.
Hi, Rita.
Good morning.
So as modified by the addition of Trustee Michaud, can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
And a second?
I second.
Any opposed? There you go. We've got a number of reports that I think we can run through fairly quickly. And then we've got Mr. Lance here to talk with us this morning. So the first on the list is the International Council of Shopping Centers. Anything new on that front?
There's nothing new, Roger, but this is Pam speaking. I want to follow up on the webinar that I attended on site selection, and the suggestion made at that webinar that we obtain certain needed data that we should have on our business section of our website, which will provide more meaningful information to potential businesses looking to locate in Long Grove. Basically, they talked about getting data from 5, 10, and 15-mile radius drive data reflecting disposable income profiles, net worth profiles, market profiles, demographics, and disposable income, among other things. So I'll see what we can do to work on that. I know we talked about maybe Roman Adriak helping us with that in connection with his census project. So I'll follow up with him and see if we can get more data.
Hey, Pam, this is Mina. So part of, we did some of that. I think we gathered some of that data when Mark Sarletto was going to try and do that Christmas Kindle Mart thing. So a lot of the data has been collected. I think some of it is on the website, just in various places. So I think that's something that we just need to cull the data correctly, highlight it correctly within the economic development tab, because if you look at other economic development agencies' websites, they specifically have a separate tab specifically with information related to the community. And I think that is something, especially since we're trying to target retail, that is something that we've always, Jay's talked about it. We've talked about it for years, that this is the most important data for the type of people we're trying to
Well,
entice. into our community.
maybe we can work on it together, Mina, and just kind of see what we have and see if there's a way we can reorganize that data so it's more readily available.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you and I can totally work on that together. Pam, thank you. And by the way, I've been listening to some of the other webinars on the ICSC. They're doing a lot of virtual webinars. I mean, weekly, and then they have a whole host of library of other past webinars and other past learnings that I think are very helpful. So if Jenny, and I know Pam, if you haven't kind of looked through some of their library collection, it's actually pretty awesome. And the information has been really, I mean, I would completely concur as a site selector that the information there contained within is actually pretty helpful and I think would be helpful for our community.
I have poked around on it and it is really impressive. I'm getting a steep learning curve, but enjoying it.
That was the idea, to bring some expertise to the questions that we've got to deal with. And that's great.
Right. And so we'll continue to mine through that, and we'll point out if there's any specific webinars that we think would be good for folks to attend. We'll bring that up at our meetings.
Okay, that's great. On the mailing, Denise and I had a discussion, I think it was yesterday, and we've got some things that we want to talk about as a group. So if it's okay, I'd like to kind of push that toward the bottom of the agenda so we could have a discussion about it. We're virtually ready to go, but we've just got some little tweaks that we're thinking might be worth doing. So more to come on that. Business flow charts.
Hi, so yeah, by the end of the week, I'm going to have the first draft of that done. I'll put it out in the shared drive for everyone to review. Essentially where I'm at is I've taken the flow chart that Dave put together for me a while ago now, and I'm making it more linear. The idea is that it would be an emailable PDF with hot links to some of the data that's already on the EDC microsite. The idea that I came up with tying it into Long Grove is that it would be titled Your Bridge to Business. And then we would have kind of not only a flow chart, but a step-by-step what you need to do to open a business in Long Grove. And then there's a couple of, what I'm struggling with on the first draft is where it branches off if you have to go and get zoning changes and request those. So trying to figure out a way to keep that simple and straightforward, but have all the information that anyone would need. So I'm at a point where I just need to put it out on the drive and ask for all of your input. I've been trying to get it as close to finished form as possible before I put it out there, but I think I'm at a point now where I'm going to need others' input to figure out what I'm missing. So by Friday, it'll be out there. I'll email everyone that it's out on the shared drive, and then we can have the document in front of us at our next meeting, and I'd welcome anyone's feedback.
Hey, Mike, I'd be happy to help out with the process part of it.
All right, cool.
You know, the process, that streamlining.
All right,
let me know.
thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Sounds good. Next item is the HLG DBA. How about that, Mike? All in one breath.
And you didn't even have to use the words blah, blah, blah either.
I know. Anyway, Pam came to the last meeting and I zoomed into the last meeting for a while, and it was instructive. I hope it gave those people a sense that we're interested in them and we're ready to come to them rather than having them have to come to us. But what I assumed appears to be the case, which is that they are focused very tightly on the merchants already in the village and how to help them advertise, merchandise, market themselves. Most of the discussion that I was there for was about various virtual festivals or distance festivals that they've managed to design that will bring people into the village for the stores that are there to drive traffic. And they seem fairly optimistic about the way things were going. Pam, why don't you get out of it.
Yeah, no, I would echo that, that there has been a lot of, good development around the virtual marketing that the Downtown Association has done, and I know they're going to continue along those lines. We also invited Jesse and or Jasmine to attend one of our meetings in October, and Jasmine responded that they're going to help us coordinate that. Hopefully they both can come so we can get that continuity with the Downtown Association that we had with Lori.
Yeah, Jesse indicated to me this is a perfect time for him. It's early enough in the morning before he gets the dance thing going on. So he said anytime.
Yeah, I think that that dialogue that we can have with the Downtown Association on a regular basis, and Roger, for maybe you and I and Mike Elliott or whoever, to attend their meetings maybe once a month would be helpful too, to see what input we can give and what kind of feedback we can get.
I think we're going to assign Jay to go the next time.
Is there a listing of meetings for the rest of the year for the group, for the Downtown Association?
I believe it's on their website. If you
Okay.
click around enough, that's where I found it.
Okay, thank you.
They are regular though. It's either the third Thursday, whatever. It's a regular meeting. It's a regularly scheduled meeting.
It looks like a lot more fun than our meeting, though. They all had beverage and
They're not all fun, Roger.
They had some social distancing in their backyard meeting. But that was good. But I think that dialogue is important. And maybe we could get more information too about the festivals. I don't know about that, Roger.
Yeah, well, I think the festivals are their bailiwick, and other than, I started getting worried about the village's liability when they were putting up ribbons on all the light posts because they were doing it as a do-it-yourself project. But it's like, not my problem, not my, not our issue. Somebody else wants to worry about that. Good for them. Okay, that's the status reports pretty much complete. And the next thing that we've got on the agenda is Mr. Lance from Lake County Partners to talk to us a little bit about what they do and what we do.
Yeah, we're pleased to have Ron Lance as our guest. He's the Business Development Director at Lake County Partners. And Lake County Partners, as everybody knows, is the economic development corporation that helps public and private facilitates public and private collaboration for economic activity in Lake County. And we're very pleased to have him. Ron's going to tell us a little bit about his background and what kind of services are available through Lake County Partners. Ron?
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And Pam, thanks for the introduction there. I think you covered it. I don't know if there's anything more I can really say. You kind of described it with you already. A little bit, I guess, on my background, and then I'll jump right into it. I come into Lake County Partners about a year and a half ago or so, really from the land use planning, economic development side and real estate development to a more minor degree. About 25 years of experience on that private sector side of the equation, working with both municipalities and private corporations on projects throughout the U.S., mostly Midwest, but really a large focus and concentration kind of in the greater Chicago metropolitan area. Lake County being a big piece of that. I've done a little bit of time working as the Economic and Community Development Director for North Chicago, helping to get some of their projects up and off the ground a number of years ago. I served as a consultant for them since 2001 through a lot of different initiatives that they were taking on, which is really what opened my my introduction to Lake County Partners. And then a couple of years ago, when there was an opening, Kevin had approached me and said, based on your background and your experience here, I think you could be advantageous to the organization in terms of helping with our business attraction and retention efforts. Jump forward to where we are today. It's been a challenging experience in some ways, not because of the organization, but because of the economic environment that we're all going through. But things continue to move forward, and luckily Lake County is in a relatively strong position in comparison to a lot of other places around the country because of our key industry segments that have continued to be lights in an otherwise somewhat dim economy. Gonna let me focus on that. Our Lake County partners' key industry segments are really life sciences, which shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone because of the corporate headquarters for Horizon and ABEG and AbbVie and Baxter and others, which is particularly beneficial given what we're going through right now. Coupled with that, the healthcare sector, industry sector is also incredibly strong in Lake County, and we're blessed to have that. Advanced manufacturing, professional service on the corporate office, corporate headquarters side of things. And then our last kind of key industry that we focus on is what we call our quality of life, entertainment and quality of life type pieces. So the forest preserve districts, the recreational uses, and the larger entertainment venues, the Six Flags of the world, and some of the other museum segments that are out there. That's really where we spend our time and energy, both in terms of attraction, retention, and expansion opportunities throughout the county. To just jump back for a second, we are a private 501c3, so we are funded by investors like yourselves. Municipalities are investors in us, the county themselves are an investor in us, and then the private corporations make up about 45% of our overall capital budget in any given year. So we have a reach across the entire municipal boundaries of Lake County itself. The last couple of years, the strengths have been in those key industries, as I mentioned, and we're beginning to see some interesting opportunities begin to develop that have been on the downward angle in Lake County for a while, specifically the corporate office side of things. I think everyone's probably aware corporate offices were moving back into the traditional large metro downtowns for the better part of the last 10 or 15 years. Pandemic and COVID-19 has begun to change a lot of the thinking with the work from home environment that's out there, that those corporations may not want to be clustered into one or two major locations in downtown areas because of the need to get through and to those areas via transit, which people are a little skeptical about right now. Taking Metro and Pace buses isn't something that people are racing back to want to do. They're also a little leery when they get into those big buildings. How do you get up and down in elevators and through the stairwells and everything else with that many people? It's an uncertainty level that those corporations are now starting to say, let's look at smaller facilities, let's continue to work from home, let's look back out in the suburban, lower density areas that we once really were attracted to and begin to have multiple facility locations. Well, that bodes really well for Lake County. You watch the numbers, we get kind of an office vacancy rate, depending on where you're at, up to 30% in some cases. Quality offices, quality facilities, but it just wasn't the desired location. That's now beginning to spin around. So our relationships with the local brokers and the local corporate office facility owners, they're all indicating the same thing. There's an uptick, a significant uptick in the interest in looking at those spaces and beginning to fill back in some of those buildings that have been overlooked for a long period of time. So we see that as a particularly bright spot in addition to the continuing strength in the advanced manufacturing and industrial locations, as well as the continuing growth in the life sciences sector that's out there. So the attraction and retention is, one piece of what we do. A big portion of that is helping those businesses as they're looking for particular locations to identify facilities that might be out there, and also to work through what the workforce talent portion of the economy in Lake County really is. A couple of years ago, 4 or 5, if I get my numbers straight, it was a little before my time. Lake County Partners working with the College of Lake County, the High School Tech Campus, and the Lake County Workforce Development Department compiled together what we call now the workforce ecosystem. So each of us working in conjunction with one another to identify where those labor needs are at for those companies that are out there and continuing to grow. What are the training needs to reskill employees where important and where new emerging industries are beginning to grow themselves, and make sure that we can connect those businesses easily together with those opportunities and the grant dollars in a lot of cases that come with them to make sure that they have access to the talent that they need to continue to grow and be successful. That's really been one of the most dominating, positively dominating portions of Lake County in the last 5 or 6 years. As everyone's aware, we're competing with the state right across the border to the north, but we're also competing with Indiana and downtown Chicago, Cook County area directly. And for us to be able to continually show the strength of our labor pool that's here, and the fact that we're continuing to reinvest in that labor pool, has been a deciding factor for a number of corporate decisions that have been made just in the last couple of years. Everyone's aware Medline made a large choice a year ago to build their new 1.5 million square foot facility in Grays Lake. A very big portion of that decision was based on their desire to maintain their existing labor pool, and knowing that this particular location in Lake County had a stronger long-term labor opportunity than they would have gotten if they jumped across the border to Wisconsin. So we're a big part of helping to make that happen. We're one piece of it. There's always the full ecosystem team, but that's what they indicated to us at the end of the day, that we need to keep our people here, staff that we have, and we need to know we have access to new staff as we continue to grow and expand. Similarly, Fisher Paper Products, which made a decision to build a new facility in Antioch early last year. The facility will be open hopefully later this year. Huge investment on their part. The family actually lives across the border in Wisconsin, and they made the choice again to stay as a company here, largely based on that labor pool piece. We're having the same kind of comments and discussions with a number of other entities right now about why Lake County is really the place to be, in addition to its geographic, that labor pool, and our ability to help put together, in certain situations, strong economic incentive programs to help keep them. We're proud of all of that. That's really where a lot of our efforts are going to continue to focus for the remainder of this year and probably the first 2 quarters of next year. We've invested as an organization into a new website of our own, which went live about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. We're talking about the data that you guys are looking for your own EDC microsite. We can help you with some of that data. A little bit of it is old as you have right now. We maintain access to all the census information databases that are out there, as well as sites, as well as the commercial real estate brokerage sites. So we can help cull through that information and get you the kind of pieces that you need to make your site as informative as possible for those that are coming and looking at it from your perspective. I'm talking a lot, I'm kind of giving the big story here, but I'd love to stop and answer any questions that you guys have.
Well, Ron, this is Mike Sarletto. A quick question relative, I'm interested in your thoughts relative to infrastructure. You know, some of the services required to support business, and how Lake County Partners weighs in on that kind of strategy. So it'd be transportation, it'd be power, it'd be data storage, you know, those sorts of things. How does Lake County Partners view that in terms of attracting or improvement in Lake County to be more attractive to businesses?
Well, I think everybody would realize having a strong and redundant in a lot of ways infrastructure system across all of those different pieces that you mentioned is incredibly important for us to be able to demonstrate to those businesses that are choosing to be here. In relation to specific pieces of infrastructure and its value and our participation in where it comes into play, really depends on the business that might be looking and where they're looking to locate at. We have worked in a number of instances where a business is looking to take maybe 100 acres of a greenfield site right now, but that site does not have adequate water or sewer currently pulled to it. We will step in as best we can and try and work with the county themselves directly, as well as with DCEO and other grant providing opportunities to try and line up the funding that might be necessary and available to support extension of those services to make that site available. Obviously the TAR, those are expensive pieces to put in, but we do our best to find those revenue streams, or those capital streams, excuse me, that might be out there right now that we can help make that happen. I'd love to say we're always successful in being able to do that. We're not. It's also a very time intensive process to make that happen. And as you guys are well aware, when a business gets to the table and says, this is where I want to be, they need to be open in 12 months. It's very difficult to pull those water and sewer line 2 years in terms of design and execution in that very short period of time. So we do also work in cooperation with those municipalities in the county to try and say, these are the target areas that we think are going to be highly attractive in the future. either because they've already demonstrated themselves as an interest from a corporation looking at the sites historically, or because of its geographic proximity to the interstate, for example. Let's start thinking long-term about what it will take to put together resources to pull that sewer line even before we have a committed use at the end, so that we're not scrambling at the very last minute to try and make that happen, and working under a timeline that the corporation may not be able to wait for us to get the full implementation taken care of. A good example of this that we were able to be of help recently, out in the same business park that Medline is located in, for continued growth in that park beyond another 500,000 or 600,000 square feet, they really needed to increase their water capacity. And that meant extending the water line out into the middle of that park, or the main water line coming into it, and building a new water tower, which is something that the village was eager to do, but having trouble finding the capital resources to make that happen. We stepped in with them to help work with some of the new grant dollars that came out of the Illinois program, the governor's program that was announced last year, to get them at the top of the list for a $3.5 million grant to help facilitate construction of a new water tower out on the site, which means, and it hasn't been awarded that I've heard yet, but we were told that they're at the very top of the list because they had all their ducks in a row. Plans were done, they knew it was going to be there, they had matching dollars from other developers in the park area, and they were ready to go. So those kinds of pieces where we can push it to the top of the list when those grant opportunities come available is something that we help to facilitate with our relationships at the state, with the CDO and others.
Ron, what about data transmission? Is there any kind of regional or countywide coordination in terms of upgrading data, whatever they call them, trunk lines, or availability throughout the village to encourage growth?
You know, there hasn't been a ton to this point, but the fact that the governor has made data centers a top priority in terms of business attraction for the Midwest and for the state of Illinois specifically means we can do similar things to what I was talking about with the grant dollars for water lines. If we have a location where a data center is looking to go at and there needs to be improvements to that infrastructure component or redundancies built into it, now is the time to go to the state and say, all right, we've got a huge project, it's important here, and it has residual benefits beyond just that data center. It can be an opportunity to tap into for the municipalities that might be running along those lines.
But is there anybody on the county level looking long-term and saying, you know, in 10 years, it'd be really great to have Western Lake County with this kind of a node and trying to push toward it long-term?
There's definitely discussion about that, where that would land at right now and what that means in relation to other priorities that are out there. It's working its way up largely because the state is now committed dollars to the data center piece. It helps to increase its priority within the consideration for Lake County representatives also. Anything else I can answer for anybody, or additional information that maybe I didn't share, but I'd be glad to dig deeper into?
You know, you touched on so many different parts of our process that this team has been exploring. You mentioned on the funding side, the cap of the grants, which that's a thrust here with the EDC and what kind of grant money can be brought in. Obviously, you know, revenue for several of these projects. I would imagine that for the downtown area, that fifth category or bucket, depending on what kind of opportunities you see on a regular daily basis, that sort of thing that might not fall directly in Lake County Partners' direct bailiwick on placement. You know, Long Grove may be a perfect match for those sorts of things. So streaming those kinds of opportunities, I think, to our own EDC here in Long Grove to field that would be, I think, particularly useful. In any of the other trends, I think, post-COVID, you know, talk a lot about the data center. We had explored CFI, and another thing I'll bring up is the TIF South. The village is now exploring a second TIF, which is at the intersection of Old Route 53 and Lake Cook Road. So that will be a direct opportunity, and again, cart before the horse, getting the infrastructure in place to be able to support business is the first step, and and that classification. But that study is being conducted right now. So that will be an opportunity, I think, that we would really benefit from Lake County Partners' involvement in terms of potential opportunities for businesses to populate that. One question I had for you on these development, based on your background, how often do you see fundless sponsors in acquisition of assets in Lake County, where it's a chicken and egg? You basically have to have an anchor tenant or an anchor, and take that bankable asset for the loan for build out and that sort of thing. How many developers do you see that fall into that category versus those that, they've got a lot of dry powder, they're ready to jump right in?
There's been fewer. It's the risk profile is definitely significantly more concern right now in terms of doing those types of things than just kind of being more on the speculative side of it. With that said, the industrial side does continue to build on a spec piece, and if they happen to have a commercial piece of frontage that goes with the larger property that they're on, they're not averse to taking that down and getting the pieces in place to make that commercial property available for development too. One particular challenge with that is we are running out of really prime industrial locations. Going back to the conversation about extending infrastructure, that is something that's important to us, although it's hard to do because we do need to create more sites. Right now, it's very easy, given where we're located at, or given the northern portion of the county is located at, to say, I can just jump across the border. It's easier because you get more sites they have more sites that are ready to go, and I don't need to think about this.
Yeah.
Our stuff along the highway is largely built out until you get very, very far north, or it's occupied by the Forest Preserve District. And that leaves us with more limited opportunities on where to put some of those bigger sites together. At the same time, though, they do continue to find locations. Venture One is building 1 million square feet of space on a parcel they found but had been undeveloped in the middle of Vernon Hills. It's right off of a piece surrounded by an industrial park, but no one could ever get their hands on it. And now they're able to, and they're building 950,000 square feet of new spec industrial space. There's a couple 100,000 square feet going next to that, also on another parcel, different developer, but for the same reasons. They're starting to do more of the infill type work, which actually presents another opportunity too. So if Long Grove has got pieces of land or developments that maybe become antiquated, but could be repositioned and happen to have strong underlying opportunities to them, that's not something that developers are shying away from or avoiding, maybe like they had historically. They're beginning to look at those sites that maybe take a little bit more to do, but if they're in the right location, they're willing to pull it off.
Mm-hmm. One thing that is on the radar of our Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals, and with this latest revision to the comp plan, we have sub-area groups. So it's pretty clear what at least from a communication standpoint, what areas of the village are ready for that sort of engagement, but also a whole bow wave of potential repurposing of properties. Long Grove traditionally has had very large parcels of land and very large lots, residentially zoned. And to the extent that those individuals, whether it's generational wealth transfer or some, there may be some precipitating event that has a change of control relative to those parcels, it becomes a little bit of a ticklish discussion about what are potential uses and that sort of thing. But I think there are new pieces of land that are coming into the view, both medium and long-term view of the Plan Commission. So, as we sort of unravel those sorts of opportunities, then we'll be sure to be in touch too as well.
Yeah, and if I can go back just for a minute with your downtown district specifically and kind of retail-oriented uses for municipalities, while that's not in Lake County Partners' key target industries, if we do receive a call, we are pushing those forward regardless. Any kind of business that comes in and may happen to come through us, if they know where they're looking to add, or if they tell us what they're generally looking for, and we have a relationship with the municipality that has shared, hey, we'd like uses A, B, and C here, we make those connections regardless. So while we don't step in and be the primary conduit in that regard, if it comes in through us, we're definitely passing it forward, and we want to continue to do that. Example, actually, just yesterday, I had a sports facility complex that came in, and while it falls a little bit maybe into the quality of life and recreational side of things, it really wasn't a strong play for us. but we did refer them forward to another municipality too and say, this is probably a good fit there. They've talked about a need or a desire for that historically. Let me make that personal introduction for you, and hopefully it can go somewhere from there.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, we like to do that stuff wherever we can. That's our role, and we're happy to be there to help serve in that regard.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
You went on mute, Rita.
Ooh,
There you go.
I didn't even touch it. Thank you. Poltergeist. You are familiar with Long Grove, our environment, and the fact that we're small right now. We're small retail and residential. What sort of businesses, in your opinion, would be a good fit for us?
Well, until the last couple of months, it was really the service-oriented business, restaurant, dining, leisure type pieces. Now those are struggling because of the situation that we're in. I think we're all hopeful we'll be coming out of that in first quarter of next year. I think those will continue to be attractive opportunities for municipalities that have interesting downtown districts like you guys do, and a strong population base with good disposable income that are looking for places to go out and continue to spend funds on. In terms of more traditional retail, that is another one that's going to be, when I say that, I mean, regular shopping, convenience-oriented shopping, those kinds of things. That's a piece of the industry we're going to have to wait and see shake out a little bit further too. Everyone knows strip malls are struggling, small retailers in those regards are struggling, and until we kind of get past where we are right now, it's going to be tough to have a full view of not how important, but how long and impactful the shop from home via Amazon and package deliveries is how that's going to impact some of those smaller retail shops.
Thank you.
Have you entertained any, or has anyone come to you about repurposing any of the larger shopping malls just in Lake County in general? Because obviously for us, it's once there's more, I mean, we just need more coming in and more retailer in the surrounding areas, I think. And I think as, for us, I think Long Grove has always been viewed as, and again, I've said this from the get-go, and I'm clearly a resident here, but we've always been viewed as being not very business friendly. And I think that is something that, and we focused only on the smaller retail. And as you said, those have been struggling, but I'm just curious, just from a broader perspective of Lake County, have you seen any repurposed mall sites or small store locations that you've seen being, what's the word I'm looking for? Just that has worked? Because I mean, I'm seeing like call centers going into other shopping centers across the country, but I don't think we're really focusing on that. But have you seen anything like
Short of the mall in Vernon Hills, which is the one that's probably furthest along in terms of trying to repurpose itself into a mixed use environment, most of the other ones aren't there yet. Mina, to your point, there's a lot of discussion on a national level of malls becoming either data call centers, data centers by themselves. The other big piece is just last mile delivery facilities. So Amazon and not so much Walmart because they've got more spaces that are closer in, but the Amazons and the e-commerce industry starting to fill those in. We've talked a lot about that internally as an organization, and while it may be good for the particular property owner, landlord in that particular case, because they don't have others that are looking aggressively to fill it in, the implications of turning those large properties and where they're located at into high traffic, heavy industrial truck traffic delivery centers, it has a lot of negative implications that have to be thought through seriously. The impact to the surrounding traffic and transportation systems, the sheer damage to the infrastructure of the roadways that are around there, wasn't really designed to take that kind of abuse. At least not all of them were. So as those get proposed, a lot of consideration needs to be given to those potentially negative impacts before you, as a municipality, raise your hand and say, yeah, I'd love to have it just to fill the space.
because I just read an article about how they're closing down or they're making dark certain Whole Foods to make them kind of last mile pickup, and that lots of these grocery stores, they're making them dark just to kind of do more of an automated pick and pack, and then even a drive up. They said there was a Walmart in Texas that just did that. So I'm just wondering if, again, that might be an opportunity for additional, just Lake County in general, but I agree with you that I think additional truck traffic is not going to be wanted, especially by a community such as Long Grove, just because that's not what we're about. But I do think that the less dead space there is around us, that helps our community thrive better. And again, there just drives more traffic, I think. And obviously we're looking at different things, but I do think that has an impact on the rest of the community. I'm glad that clearly you all know what you're doing too. I've known Kevin and Barbara for a while. So, I mean, I know you all are doing well in that regard. So I'm glad that at least you guys are kind of like, no, that doesn't really go with the flow, but we're trying to go for. So glad, thank you.
Sam's was just a little bit ahead of its time. The facility in Wheeling that went, it's got a 95-year lease. Now, and technically, I guess that's in Cook. Well, it could be considered Cook County, but when they went dark in that, that beehive of retail activity there, and that's exactly what they do. It's a pick and pack storage inventory facility now. And so, that's a brilliant question. Thanks.
Mina,
One second.
to respond,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, everyone.
to respond, Buffalo Grove Town Center on 83 in Lake Cook, there's a big redevelopment there. And I think there's a new TIF district there also that'll be residential and retail. And my understanding is also the shopping center on Lake Cook and Buffalo Grove Road on the northeast corner, where there used to be a food store, which is primarily emptied. I think it was originally a Dominick's. Is also included in that.
The corner of Arlington Heights and yeah,
Arlington Heights. That's right, Arlington Heights. So anyway, those are near to us, and I know the one on the town center is going to be primarily retail with some residential.
Well, I've said it before that when you leave, the Buffalo Restaurant at the corner of Arlington Heights Road and Lake Cook Road, you go 7 miles to Barrington before you see the next eatery. Now, if you head north on 12, then yeah, sure. But the reality is, in terms of restaurants along an arterial road like Lake Cook, there's it's a big gap.
While we don't get into the residential side of things either, I think there is another opportunity that's coming with that. The exodus of the urban environment, the urban lifestyle is going to be beneficial to already developed municipal entities like yourselves also. So starting to look at maybe moderate density where it can make sense as an adaptive reuse of a piece of property that maybe has become antiquated is something that Buffalo Grove is already looking at. Vernon Hills obviously is already looking at with their mall redevelopment, and others are too. But that presents a large opportunity. Once those people are living there, they're looking again for someplace else to go back out, go to eat, to do convenience-oriented shopping, those kinds of things. So those rooftops do make a difference in terms of attracting those other types of local retail establishments that everyone's going to be looking for.
Great. Roger, maybe for a future agenda item, I'd like to know more about this proposed study that regarding TIF number 2 district. I think it would help us to sort of figure out where the board is with this and what's happening.
Well, Rita and Jenny can probably give you a quick overview of what the board's discussed to date. I think they're at like stage 2 of the evaluation process. In the last meeting, they authorized the next stage of evaluation, but I think they have ascertained that it's viable, and they had to shrink the footprint of the TIF to not include Menards, but it does include other areas in and around Menards. But I think chime in, Rita or Jenny. I think there was the next phase was a $13,000 or $14,000 phase 2 of the study, which is going forward.
It's on tonight's agenda. Excuse me. Pardon me. There, that's better. Excuse me. The next phase is for us to have a public hearing on it, and that's on the agenda tonight.
Why don't we put that on the agenda for the next meeting for us to talk about it a little too, because maybe we would want to have somebody attend and put in some of our ideas at the public meeting, although all could, but it's been interesting to watch it go through the village and see how it's developed. And there are things that I think can be instructive for us to talk about in more detail. But let's think about it before we jump into that.
Hey, on the village website, Bobby, who's been leading communications, did a nice job of putting the presentation up there from the last board meeting. Tons of information on it. So if you haven't gone there, take a look at it, because I think it provides a great summary of everything. In short, right now, it's just a container, right? It's empty. And it provides us with the ability, if developers want to come in, to help them figure out a way to cover the, costs for infrastructure and those kinds of things. So all that's laid out in there. About 7.2 million, I believe, is what could be covered somehow and recouped through the TIF. But nothing's been decided except the boundary of the TIF and, and the dollar amount that could be recovered over the period of the TIF. So hope that makes sense.
Anything else for Ron?
Thanks for attending, Ron. It's really good to see you.
I appreciate the opportunity. I like hearing what you guys are doing, and as I've shared with Michael and Pam and others in previous conversations, when you guys have stuff that's percolating and you're thinking about it or you're interested in it, don't hesitate to pick up the call or pick up the phone and give us a call. We're happy to give you our opinion on it or step in to try and be helpful wherever we possibly can.
By the way, you were really, really helpful in the Chris Kindle market. We were trying to pull together a number of different stakeholders related to that, the Lake County Visitor Center, the Lake County Partners, and several others. It made a powerful impact. We didn't win it, but in light of COVID and everything else, maybe it was a blessing this past year. But not to think that we wouldn't want to renew those efforts when things open up a bit more. But very much appreciate you and Kevin and your direct involvement in that whole push. That was really good. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to do so and look forward to continuing to do it on future opportunities.
Ron,
Right.
I think we'll reach out to you too to get some updated data maybe to help us with some of the additional retail focused or oriented just rooftops and anything else that you might have that we don't have enough of or need updating.
Foot traffic.
Absolutely. Try to reach out to me. I want to connecting you with Bethany at our office. She's our research and strategy person. But send it to me and I'll get it all funneled through so you can get what you need.
Will do. Thank you.
Yep.
And Ron, we really appreciate your stepping in and talking to Eric Flanagan about CFI. That was also very helpful. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity you guys have there. And again, now that the office environment is looking for campus facilities back out here again, let's continue to push that one as hard as we can, as strongly as we can, to find someone to help fill it in.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Great.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
So our next item on the agenda is to talk about how'd you do it and where we're going to go with it and what the reactions were to people that saw it. So thoughts?
This is Pam. I do like the idea of having those sessions take place within our EDC meetings. If people, I think it provides an audience and a focus, and I think to the extent we could do that, I don't know how frequently we would want to entertain that opportunity, but I think the EDC might be a good forum for that, because I would be concerned with how we would develop an audience otherwise. I know we've talked about that in the past. With some of our webinars, it was a bit of a struggle to get an audience together. And I did like the fact that we provide that forum.
Everybody else is sitting on mute. Nobody has any reactions?
Well, I'm
thought-
not sure how many individuals were able to reach out to their networks to invite people to the webinar or to the. Okay, alrighty.
I think we only had one or two people other than this committee. And I'll be consistent with what I said 2 meetings ago. First of all, I enjoyed Kevin's interview. It was great. But I don't know what the benefit is. I think that, again, if we're going to do if we're going to do marketing, let's do it targeted to where it could benefit. For instance, maybe it's the I think there's a group, Chicago Restaurant Brokers Association. Let's invite them in and hear a story about someone from the community, what they did with their business in Long Grove. I mean, it was great what we did 2 weeks ago, but I don't think there's any benefit to it.
Well, I think the idea, I think there was a lot of benefit for those that are thinking, particularly Long Grove residents that are thinking they're at this crossroads and they want to know whether go into consulting, start a franchise, or buy a job, whatever. But I think the reality is to have a diverse set of library of these kinds of things. The whole idea all along was the village has, the EDC has a toolbox of things that can be referred out. So for example, if I stumble across an accounting firm that wants to either do an extension, they want to relocate their whatever, you know, the idea, hey, have you heard Irwin, who exited Steinberg, Partners, blah, 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 blah. Listen to his story. It's kind of a cool thing. That's one. And then tech enabling that. So it's really easy, using the village website as the portal for accessing this kind of stuff. After a while, people come to it because they see it as a resource for gaining access to materials and that sort of stuff. I would agree. If we do nothing with it, it's worthless. Absolutely. But the idea is to build an inventory of this kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, Mike, to add on to that. Oh, go ahead. Who was going to talk?
No, go ahead, Erwin.
All right. I think then to add on to that, I think, again, I'm going back to this targeted marketing. It's great to hear stories about someone who's a resident of Long Grove, but I want to focus on how we can get, like you said, Mike, those business people to understand this would be a good community for them to relocate, to open up a business, to expand a business. So I think that if that's our goal and to have a library, then let's figure out and brainstorm for 2021, 3 or 4 or 5 people that we could do this with and have it in our library. But it would have to be where someone's going to look at this or listen to it and say, that's great. I'm going to follow up with maybe relocating to Long Grove, not to hear my story. Okay, or not to hear a story of someone who was a CEO and the company went public. That's great, but how is it going to help the village of Long Grove?
Yeah.
That's my comment.
Yeah.
And I agree, Erwin. I think that's a good idea to have targeted marketing, pick 3 or 4 people that fit into, areas and industries that make sense, for Long Grove, and tell their story and maybe give more lead time, when we invite, when we make this invitation to people to come and join in the discussion. I think we need more lead time. It was just very short in terms of how we went about inviting people. I think, people need maybe a couple weeks to fit it in their schedules.
To me, it seems that the value is not to have a real-time presentation, but to be able to look whenever you want and find something informative about, I'm thinking about moving my offices out of the loop. And I'm just kicking around and somebody says, well, Long Grove, blah, 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 blah. And on the website, there's somebody who's migrated their office to some kind of a core facility here in Long Grove. Maybe first tenant at CFI would be a great interview to have posted on the website saying, why am I moved to the middle of nowhere, or whatever they want to call it. Or somebody within the village who has had a long successful run at running their business there, even through COVID, and has managed to,
Right,
without
right.
struggle, whatever, still have the people who are committed to or just really like the fact that this is there and it's a unique kind of a thing. One of those kind of people on the website. And if we do it to make it easy for them through our meeting as the place where we record it, that's fine, because it's, at least there'd be the six of us and a couple of trustees to
Right.
listen and
Right.
realize that it's not just a, it wouldn't be like playing football in front of an empty stadium, which.
Right, right. I mean, that was my point. That was my point too, Roger. We're a good forum for that because at least, you know, we provide that audience, people that can ask questions, can pull out the kinds of information we think might be relevant to others who are going to pick it up in the future. So, you know, I do like that idea, and also the idea of really, you know, making a list of 4 or 5 successful businesses that we think would be a good prototype for others to investigate and follow. I mean, it's something we kind of work on.
I think this is exactly the discussion that needs to be held on the what and the why, which is perfect. Erwin was a more than willing guinea pig to do 2 things. One was the process of conducting an interview, but also getting the technology, getting it so it can be posted, get, you know, that whole thing, that whole process.
Right.
I mean, that was the whole idea, was to get something going, right? So the what and why and the rationale for who's next and that sort of thing. I think this is the perfect discussion to be having, but it can be done. And it was successful in the respect that an interview was completed, and I assume it's available on the website, right?
It is.
And
It's on
we
the
should
website.
have a button on our EDC microsite here before too long where we can actually showcase, you know, that sort
Right.
of thing. I mean, that was the whole idea.
So
Right.
let me make a suggestion for 2021. Let's target 4 business owners that their story would be of interest. And I'm just throwing that out. For instance, Sunset Foods is very well known in the Chicago community.
Right.
You know, maybe from Sunset, how did they get here? How did they develop it? What was the benefit of the how did they work with Long Grove? And then I read, I think it was in the newsletter that just came out, you know, on the north end of Long Grove, we've got some businesses that have been here for a long time. I think one of them was the RV.
83 RV.
83. Well, you know, I just happened to go by there the other day and it's like empty because it's such a hot thing with COVID. You know, how long have they been here? What do they do? What's the benefit? And then separately, let's try to target that to groups to get them to listen. Even, you know, it may be reaching out to 3 or 4 universities that have an entrepreneurship curriculum and asking their professors to say, hey, we're going to do a 30-minute interview of an entrepreneur, someone who's successful, started a business, and it ties into Long Grove. The more we can get our name out there, the better off we are.
Yeah.
So that's a thought for 2021. Let's make it, you know, like 4 impact businesses that are here.
Right. No, I like that idea, Erwin. You know, things that are unique to Long Grove that have been successful and that, you know, they serve as good models for the future. I think that's a good idea. I also, you know, I mentioned in the past that White Oak Gourmet, I think they're a good one because they, you know, they're a kind of a new type of business that takes advantage of, you know, a number of the factors that are not a number of the economic factors that are available in Long Grove, you know, to have be able to maybe supply food to country clubs or, you know, some of the more unique aspects of what Long Grove has, you know, how they put that together, you know, and what they did to handle the situation they had during COVID. So I think that's another one we could put in the mix.
So as I said again previously, we need a champion for that. Just like we have someone on the shopping center side and the newsletters, you know, if someone could run with that and come up with ideas that we can discuss, at least an outline for a program for next year.
Well, I would work on that maybe with Rita, you know, and because we started talking about a list of possible businesses that we could tap into for these interviews.
I thought Kevin did a wonderful job. It really
Yeah.
professional, really professional.
Right, I did too.
Yeah, he really did, and we never talked before. I had a little trepidation on that. He reached out to me, and for some reason, I went into voicemail, and I wasn't able to call him back. So great job.
Well, he's a really good active listener because he fed back in some of your earlier commentary into the tail end too. It's really, I thought it was really good. Well done. I think it's a good platform moving forward.
Well, I've stolen Erwin's interview and I've posted it as a homework assignment for my business students. Seriously, to say,
Great.
listen to this and think about what you should be thinking about now, because these are 19-year-olds at COD, and the responses are coming back. They're going, oh, I probably should be thinking about a little more than who I'm going to just work an hourly job for. So there's value added right there. Thank you, Vernon. Thank you, Dennis O'Connor. And that was
Kevin.
Pardon me.
Kevin. Yep.
Different guys. It's like me and George Goebel. I'm sorry.
Your middle name is George, isn't it, Roger? I think I called you George Goebel for about a year.
All right, so Pam's going to look. Mina, you've got some strong opinions on this. If you've got some ideas about the kind of people we should try to find, please, share later. But let's not next meeting, but maybe in November, talk about how we're doing with this.
No, and and here, this was my, not necessarily objection, but again, playing devil's advocate. I mean, I agree. I mean, we kind of fleshed out the what and the why, I mean, as we've talked about, and I do think that is a good idea. I think that, again, I don't necessarily know if it should be live, again, from a number of people other than just the board, or the commissioners, like, listening. But again, I think the idea, and I agree, the video clips that I've seen, because that's why I can attest that it's on the website. It's, very strong interviews. I mean, and it's good skills and it's lively, right? So I think that part's great. Now here again, put yourself in my shoes or my client's shoes. They're not going to sit there for something longer than a minute clip of kind of the skip to the why are you here, what brought you here, like, again, they just want the clips versus like, I don't have 15-20 minutes to sit there and watch a video, especially when I'm on the road. And that would be my only, so that's why I was trying to show you guys to the KC EDC website, where they just had pictures of people. So it'd be like a face of Erwin, and then you click on it, and then it would be just like a video or like just a little quote of maybe why he chose to be here, or why he did what he did. And it just quick snippets, because again, time is money and people just don't like, for me, anything that's given to me in video, I pass over it. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to listen to it. So think about it in this day and age, like we're an Instagram society. You want a quick picture, you snap, and then I don't even listen to the video parts. I just look at the pictures and whether I like it or not. So I think that is, again, I think we've all become ADD that way, where we want quicker and just more information faster. And I like the idea for those people that are very interested in our community, they will sit and listen to these. I definitely agree with that. So I think the library aspect of it is very valuable. I just think that how much time and energy we want to devote to this, because that's a lot of work for Kevin. And again, and I think for a year is great. I don't think we should be doing these every week or every 2 weeks, for surely not. So if we're going to start building a database, I agree, more than one for sure. I mean, I think you at least need 5 to 10 to really make a difference and to be relevant. And then that would also make our website more searchable if we can start getting on the SEO and the Google platforms of searchability about, doing business in Long Grove and why it's valuable and why Long Grove was chosen. So just my opinion. I mean, and I think, Erwin, you're a gem for being our first guinea pig and doing well. And I think Rita, bless her heart and bless her husband, like, amazing, good stuff. So truly. So I'm not being a naysayer. I'm just saying, I think we need more. You can't just have one on there for sure.
Yeah, and maybe you know, we kind of, you know, with these interviews, you know, with your suggestion, you know, maybe we kind of use it in multiple platforms. You know, we could, you know, in our quarterly report highlight, you know, who, you know, was our featured, you know, our featured guest in this program, you know, for that quarter. And, you know, we can highlight it in different ways. You know, we can have the video available, but we can also highlight it in different media, you know, in our quarterly report and our, you know, as you were saying, maybe even a picture and a little, you know, small tab with the story. I think we can use it in different media once we, you know, we have these interviews.
How
We don't
about
really have to.
collecting audio clips along with headshots for
Right.
1 or 2 people? Those are much easier to edit than a video. And you can, you know, just ask stock questions to a half dozen people in fairly short order.
I think that I think a headshot of Irwin kind of, and then just kind of like, you know, just like a quick, like what, you know, what his business was and thing like that. I think that's quicker and quicker, easier to search too. I mean, if anyone wants to look for it.
Right, so we can, you know, we can highlight, you know, like start with Irwin, you know, our quarterly business person that we did, you know, with a video clip that we highlighted, and, you know, make that available then on the website or, you know, in our quarterly report.
So next steps here are what?
I think, I mean, just from listening to the conversation, so Pam and Rita might possibly find some more companies and using some of Irwin's suggestions of like something like Sunset Foods or other companies. And Pam mentioned the White Oak Gourmet. I mean, just maybe getting a list and reaching out to them maybe once a quarter and seeing if they might want to do something like this. That's what I heard was
in a clip from one of the management at Sunset talking to them, why'd you move to Long Grove? And how's it worked out? And I would hope that Jay could connect it with us with somebody that I'll reach out to Jay and see if he can suggest who we should talk to, you know, get somebody beyond just the store manager, not to disrespect the store manager, but so I'll do that. Pam, hopefully Rita.
Yeah, right, and I could reach out to the owners of White Oak. I think they're a good prospect. You know, see how they handled the situation during COVID, and you know, just why they selected Long Grove, and it was kind of a unique business model, which is what I like about them. Love it. You know, they took advantage of some things that are here in Long Grove and built a business model based on that. You know, that they felt there was catering, you know, opportunities or, you know, delivery of food, you know, to individual residents. You know, they kind of combined a number of features that are unique to Long Grove. So I think they're a good bet.
So let's put this on the agenda for next week or next 2 weeks from now to report back and talk about what we found. That reasonable?
Sounds good.
All right. The letters that went out to area bankers, this is a brainstorming kind of thing. Denise and I were talking, and I want to talk to everybody about what we should do in terms of, we've got the content and the board has approved it and we're all ready to send it out. She's set it up, teed it up with the list of the addressees, but we're talking about the tagline and what it should say, and getting some thoughts about possible leads that would grab people's, you know, as you scroll through the lead lines, what should this say when we're talking to people about, can you help us grow in Long Grove? Denise had a lead line, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but basically it was, Denise, can you remember what it was? Because I'm
Was
blanking.
it a tagline you're looking for? Like
A tagline
header?
for the, you know, for the subject line.
Because the subject line is in, when you see it, it's in bold and it's large. So it seems, you know, when I was just going to put a basic, you know, the Village of Long Grove Economic Development Commission, and I started thinking this line might be important as far as grabbing somebody's attention. Both if it was shorter too, you can actually see it in your, you know, before you even open the email. And I did look into kind of the, what is possible as far as seeing, like, if we could see if, you know, if a email was actually opened or not, like, but because of, we don't pay for our account, we actually don't have that capability. But Roger and I had talked about even having maybe like 4 or 5 different sort of subject lines that you used. And I mean, it'd be an interesting experiment to see if any one of those, we received anything, you know, more from one of those different subject lines.
So how about something like help Long Grove grow or something like, just again, fewer words, very, like you said, you can see it in subject line, even on your phone. I mean, nothing like really long, like Long Grove Economic Development Commission, like it's good. You're going to lose that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think something quick and to the point, I think would be definitely beneficial.
That's
Just
the
to
core
get
of the
an
message.
open rate.
We're asking for help. Any other catchy phrases we might pop in there?
Yeah, I'll throw out my idea of your bridge to business. And we have to keep perspective in mind here too. If we're sending this to bankers to get on their radar, to direct businesses coming to them for a loan and saying, hey, where might be a good place to go? The idea to send this out is to get their help, but it has to provide some benefit to the banker, right? Or to the bank, right? If we can help them, I don't know, get a business loan with a new business because we're offering a good site, or we're offering a roadmap to help that business get up and running in Long Grove more quickly than another municipality is, then there has to be some benefit for the audience to open the email, right? So something like, hey, your bridge to business, we're going to help you secure a small business loan kind of thing, versus, hey, help us, because no one's going to read that, right? That's just my perspective, that you have to have your intended audience's benefit in mind.
So be our business, be our bridge. You're right. You know, it's an ask, not a look here.
I like that,
bridge
Michael.
to new business.
Well, no, and again, it can't be from our perspective. It has to be, hey, we can be your bridge to business, right? For if you're a business owner where the EDC is your bridge to business, we're going to help you get set up and running. If you're a small business banker that's looking to secure a small business loan, yeah, I'll partner with Long Grove EDC, because they will help this potential business owner get up and running. And then that's going to be better for me if I'm a banker and I'm going to give a small business loan, and I've got a group of people helping that new business owner be successful. I'm going to be motivated, right, to connect the two. Just my thought. I'm putting myself in the banker's shoes here, and if I get an email, why would I be motivated to open it and read it, and more importantly, take action on it?
No, Michael, I think that's a great, and I think I like the tie into our historic bridge too. It's like be a bridge to business. I think that's awesome, and I totally agree with you. I think that's so far the best one I've heard.
I like it too.
Makes sense.
There you go. Clear consensus.
Yeah,
So
I
it's-
think it's good.
So
Also,
then
do we want a signature on our page? We have it, you know, just as the Economic Development Commission. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't want to have, you know, like Roger's signature on there or anything like that, or if we just want to leave it as is.
Well, we've worked it down to the village administrator as the contact, right?
What we have, because of Dave's departure, I spoke with Dave and we changed it. I created a sort of an interim email that we can have as just sort of a, you know, village manager. I can't remember what I have it as, but so that we can, you know, anybody who emails, we do have that spot to look at it. And then I have just the village phone number, and I put a generic village manager that they can contact. So
Just to be certain, Dave Lotzbeck has taken a job in Monroe, Wisconsin, and it just came to the surface in this last week. So we're all reacting to that, at least in this in particular, with just a generic there where it was his name, which I think makes sense. It looked fine to me that way. I was happy with it. Anybody else?
I thought the letter read well, and I thought of Denise, your sample letter email that you sent to us. And again, as long as you changed right to the generic village manager, I think that's actually really smart, just in case for turnover purposes. But yeah, I thought the letter looked and read really well. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, on that topic that you mentioned, Roger, in terms of search for a village manager, can we find out more about how that search is going for the new village manager?
Come to the meeting tonight, except that's a problem because we can't all come to the meeting, right? We get into OMA trouble.
No, it's an open meeting that's been posted, so I think all of you can come.
Well, then here you go. There's the place to find out. Mike, I thought that the piece you circulated about a job description, I guess I'd call it, was really thoughtful and helpful, and I'm sure that the trustees will take that into account. But you know, I hope that in the process of selecting somebody, there is at least some focus on attitude toward growth and experience in not necessarily mature communities or bedroom communities, but communities that are a kind of a mixed land use situation. You know, it's like Ron Lentz and his experience at North Chicago. You know, that's like, in my mind, war zone experience in economic development. And it'd be bad to have somebody like that.
You know, one of the things that I had in that little write-up on the skills, and I think it was a transferable one. It is the coordination of a number of different commissions within the village that is responsible for various parts of exactly what you're talking about. You have a plan commission that does some of that forward thinking. They're responsible for the comp plan, blah, blah, blah. You have conservancy, you have architectural commission, you have all of these committees that, if they are orchestrated together, which would, in my view, be the village manager's, you know, so in number one responsibility, it would be a divide and conquer sort of thing. All the pieces come together to an end goal, like you're saying. The EDC and several of these discussions, I think, needs to be kind of front and center. When you think about the South TIF, what economic engine view or future we see as a village there, leveraging transportation, leveraging, you know, whatever it might be, those details being vetted out. So as the consultant is reviewing that, you know, having an EDC tie-in or at least review, and I'm not talking about a formal, you know, sort of review and approve and that sort of thing, just sharing of the information, so that as these different parts, you know, circle around in their individual orbits, we're all going in one direction. And I think that's a key attribute, I think, of the village manager's job, is to make sure those pieces are kind of stroking in towards a goal and that sort of thing. So I think you're right. But I can think of a number of examples where you don't want necessarily a village manager preemptively, you know, cutting things off or you know, voicing too much of an opinion. That's why you have commissions, just like this one, to get that thinking wrapped around. And the skill set around this table is awesome. This is what you want, you know, sort of creating those opinions and inputs to what's going on in the village, I think. So that's why I put that part in there, was orchestrating the pieces of the village towards an end goal.
Well, we've got the ear of two trustees and the village president right now, so we're certainly adding our input at this point. That's a good thing. But it will be an interesting process, and I'm sure it won't be a quick process. There's not somebody, and maybe there is somebody in the wings who's going to start next week, but it would seem to me to be unlikely.
Could we just go back for 1 minute on the letters? I'd like to develop a larger list of bankers and lawyers. Would it make sense to the Downtown Association? I don't remember all the initials. I'm not that awake yet. To show
HD LGBA.
Okay, to show them what we're doing, and maybe they can provide, the ask would be your banker and your lawyer. And this would help you because we plan on sending out mailing pieces, email pieces, and the more contacts we have, the better off we are, because it was just the list I developed. There's maybe 30 or 40 on there. We need hundreds. We need hundreds. So would that make sense if we could reach out to them, to all the businesses in the association? Ask them for their contacts, telling them what we're doing?
I'm trying to think why I, as a business owner, would have any objection to telling you who my legal counsel and my financial advisor are. It's an easy ask, I think, but.
Right, or other bankers and lawyers they know. It doesn't have to be theirs.
Yeah.
And anyone.
So we've got an email address for the people at the HLGDBA. Erwin, you want to draft some kind of a request to them?
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is something that I think Pam had mentioned earlier about 30 minutes ago, the whole reach out with Jesse and setting up that meeting. Maybe it's one of those agenda items that put together a loose agenda, so it's guiding the discussion with Jesse and who replaced Lori? Is it
maybe Jasmine?
I forget her name, but Jasmine. Yeah. But maybe in that meeting you have 2 or 3 of these kinds of things that attending the meetings, these sorts of things that you can talk about. Pretty simple, I think.
Keep it simple. That's the best.
There's another thing that comes to mind, not to prolong it, but HOAs. Any HOA that has a fiduciary financial responsibility to the HOA, there's a lot of loose ones that are not really formal, but the formal ones all have banking relationships as well. We, HOA, our Martin Lakes, I moved to PNC here in town in Long Grove, and it had not been local to Long Grove in the past. So that's another, just another relationship related business opportunity for banks that they ought to be interested in.
Absolutely. Anything else? New business? Old thoughts? All right. So let's say we had a good, efficient meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
A second. I'll second.
Excellent. Any opposed? So the meeting's officially adjourned at 8:24.
Thanks, everybody. Feel free to attend the board meeting tonight.
Thank you all, and some of us will be there.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Have a good day.